Hey, Shalom, Makim, Shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. I'm going to like to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noise in the gospel, by living up the standard of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever they may be. This is just a quick response to this rhetoric that's been going around Israel. Basically, Paul is not an Israelite, which is easy to debunk and disprove and prove that he was an Israelite. In fact, you have two scriptures in Acts that basically tells Paul basically stated, I am a Jew out of Tarsus. Okay, and if you know Tarsus, I believe it's like a city in Sicily or Italy, if I'm not mistaken, or Sicilia, which is pretty much like the southern Italy, if I'm not mistaken, which a lot of so-called Sicilians or Italians or Sicilians that come out of Italy are Jakes. Okay, hence the Moors, okay, taking over the parts of Europe, and pretty much conquering the continent and switching the bloodline, man. And that's why a lot of Sicilians can refer their ancestors or their roots back to people of color. Okay, and most of them, you know, they have roots going back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, because they are the Israelites for the most part. Sicilians, you know, they got that Jake swag to them. They got that whole mob structure. I mean, you know, they live and behave like Jake, you know. They're fucking radical as all hell. You know, they talk shit. You know, they like to get drunk off the yan. They like the pasta, like all those mob movies, like with Michael Corleone and so forth, like The Godfathers and what's the name of that? Casino, and then you got Goodfellas. Them dudes was Jakes, man. You know, like Robert De Niro, Jake. Joe Pesci, Jake. You know, Al Pacino is definitely a Jake. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio, a Jake. Okay? And the list goes on. All right, so anyway, just a real quick lesson, nothing too deep, but I got 4 precepts that are pretty much debunk that. This is Romans 9:1, because, you know, the fact that Paul come from that particular region, people equate him with being an Edomite because of his father. But also, if you go into the whole story of Cornelius, because it say he was of the Italian band. Oh, see, he was a white man. But the original Italians were not white. Okay, they were actually people of color. Just like the original people of Europe wasn't white, but they was called the people of color. Like what they call Europeans, they were actually Japhetic peoples, people of color. They wasn't Edomites, man. Okay, so it's essential to know some type of history in order to link the artifacts. Because you can look up the Russian coat of arms. You know, you could look up particular relics of the Dark Ages, and you will see that these men that inhabited Spain, Sicily, or Italy, you know, parts of Rome, the UK or Britain, Ireland, you know, Wales, and so forth, they were people of color. All right, so it says here, Romans 9:1, it says, I say the truth in Hamashiach and I lie not. It says, my conscience also bear me witness in the Holy Ghost, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I wish that I were accursed for the anointed, for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Okay, right there. Anything else will make Paul a liar, but he says, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to who pertain the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of the Most High and the promises. Okay, so if you look up, matter of fact, let's go to Romans 9 real quick. Romans 9, and we're going to look up what it is. And it's just simple. Look up brethren, means your brother. Okay, kinsman means somebody of your paternal kinsman. All right, brethren goes into Aldelphos, which means a brother, whether born of the same 2 parents or only from the same father or same mother. So like, okay, I have what they call a half brother. My mother's son. Okay, we don't have the same father, but my mother's son, he's still my brother. Why? Because he comes from my mother. Okay, he comes out of our womb. That's my brother. Now, on my father's side, they would say, well, you have a half brother there, but not necessarily. He's my entire brother because we know that the man holds the bloodline. You see? But it says a brother, whether born of the same 2 parents or only of the same father or mother, having the same national ancestor, belonging to the same people or countrymen. Okay, same people, meaning that the Israelites were all brothers. Okay, Jacob's 12 sons, which Jacob's name was turned into Israel. Basically, all the 12 tribes, they're all brothers. all the way from Judah all the way down to Naphtali, to Issachar. They're all brothers, man. And if you come out of those particular lineages, then we're brothers, okay? Because we all come out of the same forefathers. Even Esau is our brother, though he comes out of the Esau, Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Nonetheless, he's still the twin brother of Jacob. But he's the wicked brother, okay, which the Most High has no dealings with. It says, having the same national ancestor, countrymen, any fellow or men, a fellow believer, united by another by the bond of affection. Yeah, like you had David and Jonathan, okay? They was fervent love for one another, okay? The bonding between them two was strong, even though they wasn't so-called blood brothers, but they both were Israelites, okay? One being of the tribe of Benjamin, one being of Judah. But nonetheless, they were still brothers, though they wasn't so-called blood brothers, but still through tribal aspects, they were brothers because they was the same people. An associate in an employment office, what? Brethren in Yahweh Shai, his brothers by blood, apostles, all men, Christians, and those who are exalted by the same heavenly place. But you get the point, okay? But he puts emphasis on it because he says, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are Israelites. Okay, so if you look up kinsmen, it should be the same thing as brothers, almost. All right. Kinsmen of the same kin, akin to related by blood in a wider sense of the same nation. Okay, a fellow countryman. Once again, the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans being the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, so that's one precept that proves that. Next precept, this is the book of Romans 11:1. It says, I say then, have the Most High cast away his people? It says, God forbid, because this is a constant or a common Christian fable that Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai has done away with his people. Okay, and that he's opened up salvation for all because the Israelites didn't. They rejected who they called Jesus. And now all of a sudden, the Most High just pretty much disannulled the covenant with his people and grafted in a bunch of heathens that was never given the covenant. Doesn't make any sense. So when you think about it, ask yourself this: did all Jews reject Yahweh Shai? Because didn't the 12 that followed Yahweh Shai, wasn't they Israelites? Okay, isn't the people that Paul are speaking to, or the diaspora? Okay, the scattering abroad of the Jakes. Okay, what they call the Israelite foreigners. Are they not Israelites? And that's why they put emphasis on no Jew nor Greek, because we're the same people. Greek is just like almost a title. They was under Greek custom. Doesn't mean they was of a Greek ethnicity. No, but they were keeping the customs of the heathen. So Greek is just basically like a title, man. Like here in America, when we wear basketball jerseys, Nikes, starter hats, or baseball hats, those are what they call Greek customs. Because remember, the Colosseums and the games and so forth, prior to them being Roman, what's another word for it? Before it was the Roman bread and circus, the Greeks, they pretty much indulged in the same type of fiestas, man, or fiascos. From the gymnasiums to the arenas, the sports arenas, that all come from Greek customs. And the Romans adopted that because the Greeks and the Romans are actually the same people. Okay? But it says, for I am an Israelite, we could close the book on that, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. It says, the Most High have not cast away his people, which he foreknew. It says, what ye not, what the scripture said of Elias, how he make an intercession to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets and dig down thy altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. Okay, but the point about it is, Paul stated that he was an Israelite for the tribe of Benjamin. So how in the hell can you justify saying he's not an Israelite? Because you're an Israelite through your father, man. Okay, your mother could be an Israelite, but if your father was like an Edomite or a Moabite, then that's pretty much what you are. Because check this out. Numbers 1:18. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after the families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward in their posts. And that 20-year-old is a generation or so. Okay, but it says the pedigrees after their families according to the house of their fathers. This is why when you read in the Bible, in Esdras, and you go into Matthews and so forth, and a lot of times the history of the kings, they give you the genealogy of the father, which genealogy goes into the bloodline. Okay, gene, the seed, and who gives the seed or who has the seed? The male. Okay, so that deads that argument. Next precept, this is the book of Acts. Acts 21, and I'm gonna start at verses 39. 38 is good too, but 21 and let's go here. Matter of fact, let's start at 26. It says, Then Paul took men, and the next day purified himself with them, entered to the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that offering should be offered for every one of them. Now, if Paul was an Israelite, how was he able to go and keep the feast and the customs? Because Paul kept the law, statutes, and commandments. How was he able to deal with the days of the purification? Okay, how was he able to deal with the Passover, the feasts, if he wasn't an Israelite? Because I thought those customs was only given it to the nation of Israel. Okay, which Edomite came from the land of Edom and the respective lands that they've taken over and kept the commandments and kept the Passovers, unless you was of the Herodian Jews or those stocks, which were Edomites, but nonetheless they had hand in hand with the temple priests, because they understood the customs of the Levitical priesthood. Because at the time of the Greeks, you had Onias the high priest, you had Jason the high priest, and I believe it was Alexander the Great that was pretty much in standing with one of the temples of one of the high priests of the Levites, man. So Alexander the Great, he kind of knew the customs. Came in, he bowed, knew the Hebrew, you know what I'm saying? And it makes sense that those particular customs were passed down, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Macedonians, even down to the Herodians, were Amalekites, that top Edomite family. So it makes sense as to why they kept somewhat of a tradition of the Israelites even to this day. Even though they worship the Talmud, they still speak the Yiddish, which is not the pure Hebrew, but they go into the Torah. They acknowledge the Tanakh, which is the book of the prophets. They claim to keep the high holy days, the Passover, and all this other stuff. So it was very notable that you had heathens that did try to keep the commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, even among those Samaritans, but overall, that's not their custom. Okay, that's why it says here, and the 7 days were almost ended, and it says the Jews which were of Asia. Okay, and these weren't converts, man. These were Israelites that woke up to their identity. Okay, and this proves that you had Israelites in Asia. It says, ended the Jews which were of Asia, and that could be read which were in Asia, because it says of Asia, because they were born there after the split, after the diaspora, after we were scattered abroad. It says, and when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Israel, help. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the law in this place, and further brought Greeks into the temple and had polluted this holy place. And those Greeks were Israelites, man. Okay, they wasn't Edomites, they were Israelites. They just didn't know the customs. And if you was of the circumcision, you looked down upon those Jakes that was scattered abroad, because they looked at them as heathens, man. Like, what the hell we got to do with you? You know what I'm saying? You don't know your heritage. You can't speak the Hebrew. You're not even trying to even build up the stock. So why are we even dealing with you? So they look at the Israelite foreigners, which they called Greeks at the time, as basically a bunch of heathen. Same way you look at Jake today. Just in this difference, we're willing to deal with Jake that's willing to have a mind of adoption, man. Okay? But it says, of this place, and further brought Greeks into the temple and have polluted this holy place. And it says here, for they have seen before with him in the city of Triumphum an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple, and all the city was moved. And what proves that they knew Paul was an Israelite is because this the way they coming down on his head. They like, why you bringing heathens in the temple? Because it was notable that Paul was an Israelite. Like it stated that he was a Pharisee of the Pharisee, man. And who held the office of the Pharisees? The Israelites, man. Okay. It says, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple, and all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were short, meaning they threw him out, put hands on him. And as they went about to kill him, tidings came into the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down into them. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating of Paul, meaning they put hands on him. Then the chief captain near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and demanded who he was and what he had done. And some other cried one thing, some another among the multitude. When he could not know the certainty of the tumult, he commanded him to be carried to the council, man. Okay, I think I missed the point. Yep, nope, 39. And it says, and when he came up to the stairs, so it was, and that he was born of the soldiers for the violence of the people. For the multitude of the people followed after, crying away with him, because they wanted to put him to death. Like, man, this guy is bringing heathens to the temple. Who is these people? And as Paul was to be led to the council, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak it to thee? Who said, can thou speak Greek? It says, art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days made us an uproar, and led us out of into the wilderness for 1,000 men that were murderers? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Sicilia, which is Italy, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech thee, suffer me to speak it to the people. Okay, that's the point. It says, I am a Jew of Tarsus. Now, look up Tarsus, right? It's going to give you a little history on it. It means a flat basket, where Tarsus belonged to the native of Tarsus. Okay, so let's do a little bit more thorough research. Don't look up. No, Tarsus, the city. Let's see something here. Yep. It says Tarsus was a hometown to the Apostle Paul, a great city of importance and a learning center of the ancient world alongside Alexandria and Athens. Notably, Jewish citizens of Tarsus were granted Roman citizenship because, according to them, when you look up Sicily, technically that's a province of Rome, so to speak. So therefore, it makes sense to have a Roman citizenship. And that's why Paul wasn't able to be crucified. They had to pretty much kill him under the Roman law. They couldn't crucify him because that was a so-called dishonorable way to go out, was crucifixion. And if you was a Roman citizen, they had stipulations on how they can take you out. Okay. Acts 22:3. It says, men and brethren and fathers, hear ye my defense, which I make now unto you. And when they heard that he spake in the Hebrew tongue to them, there you go, they kept the more silence. And he said it, I am verily a man which am a Jew, born in Tarsus, a city in Sicilia, yet brought up in this city at the feet of Gamaliel, and taught according to the perfect manner of the law of the fathers, and was zealous towards the Most High, as ye all are this day. It says, and I persecuted this way unto the death, binding and delivering into prisons both men and women. Okay, it says, as also that the high priest doth bear me witness in all the estate of the elders, from whom also I received letters unto the brethren, and went to Damascus to bring them which were bound into Jerusalem for to be punished. So basically, he was a Pharisee, man. Paul did the bidding against Yahushua, but in ignorance, because he thought that, man, these men are teaching to break the law, statutes, and commandments. But Yahushua came to him personally and showed him, look, man, this is the way, walk ye in it. All right, but anyway, matter of fact, one more thing. Look up Sicilia. All right. It says the land of Celix. It says Cappadocia in the north and Syria in the east. Its capital Tarsus was birthplace of Paul. Sicilia, a region of Asian Minor. All right, let me look something up real quick. Yep, Sicilia is a geographical region of southern Anatolia in Turkey. Yep. It says extending inland from the northeastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Sicilia has a population ranging over 6 million, concentrating mostly at the Sicilian plain. All right, now let me do a little bit more research. Let's look this up. Let's do a web search and see what it says. Yep, it's in Turkey. Yes, sir. Yep, so get the point. Paul was definitely an Israelite, and there's proof of that. So anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. And with that, shalom and a baba.